A piece of wire in a C shape forms the basis for the mouse and the flower he is holding. Let me show you how to make him in a few easy steps. For this project, you will need gray, purple, green, white, and yellow polymer clay, a toothpick, wire, fingernail clippers or wire cutters, off-white thread, and a non-metal baking dish. Cut a piece of wire about the same length as a toothpick using the fingernail clippers or wire cutters. Bend the piece of wire in a loose C shape. Roll a marble-sized ball of the gray clay, slightly oval, and thread it onto the wire, leaving about 1/4 inch of the wire sticking out at the end. This will be the body. Press it flat onto the surface and press it into, like I said, an oval shape, making a rounded belly. Roll a smaller pea-sized ball for the head and don't stick it onto the wire just yet. Just make sure it's the right size. Now roll 2 tiny balls to make the cheeks or the jowls of the mouse, but make them about half the size that you want them because we'll be adding a second layer in just a little bit. Now roll a tiny ball out of the white to make a nose. You can use the toothpick to get this into place and press it down at the top to make a triangular shaped nose. Now use the very end of the toothpick to make a little indent for each eye, just a little downward line like he is smiling and sort of squinting. Now roll 2 balls to make the ears and flatten them out with your finger. And then roll 2 balls about half size out of the white and flatten them out with your finger on the inside of the ears. Really flatten out the white part and kind of blend it into the gray. Then you can even use the end of your toothpick to kind of make it look a little bit furry around the edges. Make a little indent in the middle of the ear with your toothpick. And attach it to the head. And then do the same thing with the other ear. Cut tiny pieces of the thread and use the toothpick to help you stick them onto the mouse's cheeks. This is a little bit tricky, and don't worry if it doesn't look neat because you're going to cover it up. The point is just to get them in there in the right spot. So take your time and just use the toothpick just to get them embedded into the clay. Do 3 on each side. Once all the whiskers are in place, roll a flat ball of gray clay the same size as the cheeks and just press them on top of the whiskers so that they're sandwiched in between the 2 gray balls. You can use a toothpick to help you get it in place and just smooth it out with your thumb. Then use the end of the toothpick to just make a few little indents. Now slide the head onto the wire so it sits right on top of the body. You want it slightly lifted up so the body is curved. Now roll a long skinny snake for a tail and you're going to stick it on the very end of the body and around the wire to cover the wire. So smooth it out so that you can't see this seam. After about 3/4 of an inch or so, you want to start coiling the tail around the wire so that it looks like it's coiled around the stem of the flower. So it's going to transform from the tail to look like the stem. So you want the tail to look like it's holding on to that wire rather than being part of the wire, if that makes sense. Now I'm going to do the feet of the mouse. So I'm going to roll out 2 large teardrop shaped pieces of the gray to make the feet, and I'm going to use the toothpick to make a little detail to make toes at the end of each one. And then I'm going to stick them in place at the end of the body on each side of the tail. Then I'll make slightly smaller of the same shape to make the arms and set those in place right between the head and the body at the top. And last, I'll construct the flower. So I'm going to put a tiny ball of green clay onto the wire, and then I'll make a flat center of the yellow, put some detail with the end of my toothpick, and roll some petals, some teardrop shapes that I'm flattening out, equal size. Press those together all the way around to make a flower. Then press the center in the middle. And then carefully fold the petals inward and stick the back of the flower onto the very end of that wire. I'm going to fold everything in place just so it looks like the mouse is looking at or sniffing the flower. When I'm all finished, I'm going to put them in my non-metal baking dish and bake it according to the clay manufacturer's instructions, usually 275 degrees for about 20 minutes. When it's baked and completely cooled, remove it from the pan and you're finished. Please subscribe to my channel for more polymer clay, animals, and other crafts.